First contact deception. The Vexarian Empire had ruled the spiral arm for 12,000 cycles. Their vast network of star systems, governed by the iron will of the High Command and their emperor, had crushed all resistance and assimilated hundreds of species into their hierarchy. Imperial ships, with their distinctive hexagonal configurations and gleaming cobalt exteriors, were symbols of absolute authority throughout known space. Grand Admiral Zex Talos stood on the command deck of the Imperial dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, his four arms crossed behind his back as he studied the holographic display. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the light from the ship's azure illumination, sending fractured patterns across the polished floor. 6 eyes, arranged in a perfect circle around his head, narrowed as they focused on a small anomaly at the edge of Imperial territory. "Magnify Sector 17B," Zex Talos ordered, his voice resonating with the natural harmonic quality all Vexarians possessed. The hologram zoomed in, revealing a small vessel of unfamiliar design. It appeared crude by Imperial standards, a patchwork of metal plates with exposed rivets, primitive thrusters, and what seemed to be manually operated external components. Scanners indicated only basic propulsion systems and rudimentary weapons. "Origin?" the Admiral inquired. Sub-Commander Velcorax, the ship's sensor officer, consulted her terminal. "Unknown, Admiral. The vessel doesn't match any configuration in our database. Preliminary scans suggest it originates from a system beyond our current territorial boundaries." "Life signs?" "Yes, Admiral. Carbon-based bipeds. Approximately 40 individuals on board. Their communication systems appear to use simple radio waves." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in amusement. Radio waves. How quaint. A pre-integration species, then, making their first fumbling steps into interstellar space. "It would appear so, Admiral," Velcorax agreed. "They're broadcasting on open frequencies. Shall I establish contact?" "Not yet." Zex Talos studied the vessel more carefully. Something about it triggered his instincts honed through centuries of combat and conquest. "Bring us within observation range, but maintain stealth protocols. I want to know more about these creatures before we introduce ourselves." The Inevitable Conquest glided silently through space, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to primitive detection methods. As they approached, the sensors gathered more data on the unknown vessel. "Admiral," Velcorax called, "I'm detecting unusual radiation signatures from their propulsion system. It appears they're using nuclear fission as their primary power source." Zex Talos couldn't suppress a chortle. "Fission. They're children playing with fire. Send a data packet to Imperial Intelligence. We may have found another candidate for assimilation." For 3 standard cycles, the Imperial dreadnought shadowed the primitive ship, observing its behavior. The vessel moved slowly, occasionally stopping to deploy what appeared to be simple probes into space. Its crew seemed unaware of the massive warship tracking their every move. "They call themselves humans," Velcorax reported after decoding their communications, "from a planet they refer to as Earth. Their vessel is named Pathfinder." "Appropriate," the Admiral remarked. "Though they have no idea what path they found themselves on, prepare a first contact protocol. Let's welcome these humans to the reality of galactic civilization." The Inevitable Conquest cloaked, its massive form suddenly appearing before the tiny human vessel like a predator emerging from mist. The effect was calculated, a display of technological superiority designed to instill immediate submission. "Channel open, Admiral," Velcorax announced. "Attention human vessel," Zex Talos began, his voice automatically translated by the ship's systems. "I am Grand Admiral Zex Talos of the Vexarian Empire. You have entered Imperial space. State your purpose and prepare to be boarded for inspection." The response came after a brief delay, likely the humans recovering from their shock. "This is Captain Alexis Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder." The voice belonged to a female human, her tone remarkably composed despite the circumstances. We apologize for any territorial violation. We were unaware this region was claimed. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration." The holographic display activated, showing the human captain. She appeared unremarkable, hairless except for the top of her head, soft skin with no natural protection, and only 2 eyes. Her uniform was simple and functional, with minimal insignia. "Your apology is accepted, Captain Chen," the Admiral replied smoothly. "The Vexarian Empire welcomes new species to the galactic community. You will power down your systems and prepare to receive our boarding party. This is standard protocol." A pause. "With respect, Admiral, we would prefer to maintain control of our vessel. Perhaps we could arrange a diplomatic meeting instead." Zextalos felt a flicker of annoyance. Even now, facing overwhelming force, these primitives attempted to negotiate. "I'm afraid that's not possible, Captain. Imperial protocol is absolute. Power down your systems immediately." Another pause, longer this time. The Admiral could imagine the panic on their primitive bridge, the realization of their helplessness. "Very well, Admiral," Captain Chen finally responded. "We are powering down as requested." Sensors confirmed the human vessel's energy signature diminishing as systems were deactivated. Zextalos nodded in satisfaction. "Prepare boarding teams. Full containment protocols. I want every piece of their technology cataloged and every crew member processed for preliminary integration assessment." 3 Imperial shuttles detached from the dreadnought, sleek and predatory, as they approached the human vessel. The boarding operation proceeded with mechanical precision, Imperial troops securing each section of the ship while scientists began examining the primitive technology. "Admiral," the boarding team commander reported, "we have secured the vessel. No resistance encountered. The humans appear remarkably compliant. Bring their captain to me," Zextalos ordered. "I wish to speak with her directly." Within the hour, Captain Alexis Chen stood before the Grand Admiral on the command deck of the inevitable Conquest. She was smaller than he had anticipated, barely reaching his lower thorax in height. Her posture, however, displayed none of the fear or awe he had expected. "Captain Chen," Zextalos began, looming over the human, "welcome aboard the flagship of the Imperial 7th Fleet. I trust my soldiers treated you and your crew with respect." "They did," she replied simply, her dark eyes studying him with unsettling intensity. "Though I must protest the forcible boarding of our vessel." The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. "A necessary procedure. You'll find the Empire has strict protocols regarding unknown species entering our territory." "And what happens now?" "Now, Captain, your species takes its first step toward a greater destiny. The Vexarian Empire has brought order and advancement to hundreds of worlds. Your people will benefit from our guidance." Chen's expression remained neutral. "And if we prefer independence?" Zextalos emitted the harmonic equivalent of laughter. "Independence is an illusion, Captain. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Small, primitive species like yours require protection. The alternative would be unfortunate." "I see." The human glanced around the command deck, taking in the advanced technology with apparent interest. "Your empire must be very old." 12,000 cycles, the Admiral stated proudly. "We were conquering stars while your ancestors were still learning to make fire." Something flickered in the human's eyes. Amusement. "Surely not." "Admiral," interrupted Sub-Commander Velcorax, "preliminary reports from the science team. The human technology is as primitive as we suspected. Nuclear fission power, chemical propellants, basic metallurgy. Their medical technology is particularly rudimentary. They still have organic organs with no cybernetic enhancements." "As expected," Zextalos replied. "Captain Chen, you need not be concerned. The Empire will accelerate your species' development by centuries. Your people will be assigned appropriate roles within our hierarchy based on your natural aptitudes." Chen nodded slowly. "That's very generous. May I ask a question, Admiral?" "Of course. What made you decide to reveal yourselves to us?" You were shadowing us for 3 days before making contact. The Admiral stiffened slightly. Their primitive sensors shouldn't have detected the dreadnought while cloaked. You were aware of our presence. Just curious, Chen replied, not answering the question directly. Before Zextelos could pursue this concerning detail, alarms began blaring throughout the command deck. Velcorax rushed to her station, her movements frantic. Admiral, the human vessel, she struggled to find words. It's changing. The holographic display showed the Pathfinder undergoing a metamorphosis. Sections that had appeared to be crude hull plating were reconfiguring, revealing sophisticated systems beneath. The entire vessel seemed to shimmer as some kind of advanced camouflage deactivated. Impossible, breathed Zextelos. Not impossible, Captain Chen said calmly beside him. Just unlikely. The Admiral whirled to face her, but she continued speaking, her voice now carrying an authority that hadn't been present before. What you're seeing, Admiral, is a Trojan horse. The Pathfinder isn't an exploration vessel. It's a PCTR-class infiltration ship, designed to look primitive specifically to attract attention from species like yours. On the display, the Pathfinder had completed its transformation. What had appeared to be a rudimentary vessel was now clearly a sleek, advanced warship. Weapon ports were opening along its hull. Security, bellowed Zextelos. Detain this human immediately. Chen didn't resist as Imperial guards surrounded her. She merely smiled. Too late, Admiral. Much too late. The deck shuddered as the first explosions rippled through the dreadnought. Velcorax cried out in alarm. Energy surges throughout the ship. Systems failing. The human vessel has fired some kind of advanced EMP weapon. Impossible, Zextelos repeated, unable to process what was happening. Their technology is primitive. We confirmed it. You confirmed what we wanted you to confirm, Chen replied. A hazard of being the dominant power for too long, Admiral. You see what you expect to see. The holographic display flickered and died as power fluctuations cascaded through the ship. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the command deck in crimson. Status report, demanded the Admiral. Weapons offline. Shields at critical levels. Communications disrupted. The reports flooded in from panicked officers. And now, said Captain Chen, her voice cutting through the chaos, the real first contact begins. As if summoned by her words, space itself seemed to ripple around the dreadnought. Dozens of vessels appeared where moments before there had been empty vacuum, their hulls bearing the same insignia as the Pathfinder. The human fleet had arrived. The reckoning. Grand Admiral Zextelos stared in disbelief at the tactical display as it flickered back to life. Where moments before there had been empty space, now dozens of human warships hung in perfect formation around the inevitable conquest. Their designs varied, but all shared the same sleek, predatory appearance that the Pathfinder had revealed beneath its disguise. Impossible, he whispered for the third time. You keep using that word, Captain Chen observed calmly, despite the Imperial guards still flanking her. I don't think it means what you think it means. One of the human vessels moved closer, its size rivaling that of the Imperial dreadnought. Unlike the graceful hexagonal designs of Vexarian ships, this craft bore a more angular, aggressive silhouette. Weapon ports lined its hull, currently closed but unmistakably present. Admiral, Velcorax reported, her voice trembling. The human vessels are transmitting on all frequencies. They're broadcasting directly to our entire fleet. A new figure appeared on the main display, another human, male this time, wearing a uniform similar to Chen's, but with additional insignia. This is Fleet Admiral Hiroshi Takahashi of the United Earth Defense Force, the human announced, his voice deep and commanding. Your flagship has been neutralized. Your fleet is surrounded. Stand down immediately or face the consequences of your aggression against Earth vessels. Zextelos drew himself up to his full height, mandibles clicking in fury. This is Grand Admiral Zextelos of the Vexarian Empire. You dare to threaten an Imperial fleet. Your deception will not save you from the full might of the Empire. Admiral Takahashi's expression remained impassive. Captain Chen, your status? Secure, Admiral, she replied. The Vexarians reacted exactly as intelligence predicted. Classic technological superiority complex. They never thought to scan below our surface camouflage. Well done, Captain. Takahashi turned his attention back to Zextalos. Admiral, we have disabled your flagship's primary systems with minimal force. This demonstration was intended to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. I suggest you reconsider your position. Rage pulsed through Zextalos' crystalline body. You primitive creatures have made a grave miscalculation. The Empire has faced rebellions before. This, he gestured at the human fleet, is nothing. He turned to his communications officer. Signal the fleet. All vessels engage these humans. Show them the true meaning of Imperial might. Before the order could be relayed, Captain Chen spoke. I wouldn't do that, Admiral. Really, I wouldn't. The coldness in her voice gave Zextalos pause. For the first time, he looked, truly looked, at the human standing before him. There was something in her eyes, something ancient and dangerous that belied her species' apparent youth. What are you? He asked, his voice barely audible. Chen smiled, but the expression held no warmth. We are what you should have feared all along. Not every species announces their advancement with grand displays and gleaming architecture, Admiral. Some of us learned to hide our strengths long ago. On the display, Admiral Takahashi continued, for the benefit of your empire, I will explain our position exactly once. Humanity evolved on a death world by your classification standards. Our planet's gravity is 1.3 times what your species considers normal. Our atmospheric pressure is higher, our climate more extreme, and our ecosystem more competitive than 94% of known habitable worlds. The human paused, letting the information sink in. More importantly, while your species was consolidating power and becoming complacent, we were fighting ourselves. For thousands of years, human fought human. We perfected the art of war against ourselves because we had no external enemies. When we finally united and looked to the stars, we did so with caution born from bitter experience. Your point, human? Zextalos demanded, though a creeping sense of unease had begun to permeate his confidence. My point, Admiral, is that we've been watching your empire for decades, studying you, learning your weaknesses. The Pathfinder mission wasn't first contact. It was the culmination of a long intelligence operation. Velcorax gasped. Admiral, I'm detecting energy signatures from the human vessels. They're unlike anything in our database. Power levels exceeding our most advanced dreadnoughts. As if to confirm her words, the human vessels began to glow with a strange bluish energy that rippled across their hulls. The effect was both beautiful and terrifying. That's impossible, Zextalos stated, though with less conviction than before. Our empire has the most advanced technology in the galaxy. These humans are barely out of their stone age. Captain Chen shook her head. Your empire has the most visible technology in the galaxy, Admiral. But visibility is a choice, not a necessity. On the tactical display, several Imperial cruisers had moved into attack position, preparing to engage the human fleet despite their flagship's compromised status. Admiral Takahashi noticed this as well. I see your fleet is positioning for attack, he observed calmly. A final warning. Stand down, or we will be forced to respond. Zextalos straightened. Despite his growing concerns, he was still an Imperial Grand Admiral. The Vexarian Empire does not surrender to primitives. All ships, open fire. The space around them erupted in brilliant energy as Imperial vessels launched their attack. Particle beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human fleet and passed straight through them. Holographic projections. Zextalos breathed in shock. No, Captain Chen replied. Phase shifting. Your weapons are passing through momentary dimensional gaps in our hull integrity. Even as she spoke, the human vessels responded. But rather than returning fire, they simply moved. With impossible speed and precision, the Earth ships weaved between the Imperial formation. No evasive maneuvers, no defensive screens, just pure, overwhelming velocity and control. Our targeting systems can't lock onto them, Velcorax cried. They're moving too fast for our predictive algorithms. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the movement stopped. The human vessels now floated directly alongside each Imperial ship, positioned at what military strategists would recognize as optimal firing positions. Admiral Takahashi's face reappeared on the display. That was another demonstration, Admiral Zextelos. We could have opened fire at any point during that maneuver. Your fleet would be debris now. For the first time in his long career, Zextelos felt true fear. These humans had technology that defied Imperial understanding. Worse, they had strategy, patience, and the cold calculation of natural predators. What do you want? He asked finally. Recognition. Takahashi replied simply. Recognition that Earth and her colonies are sovereign territory, not subject to Imperial expansion. Recognition that humanity is not a potential subject species, but an equal power in this galaxy. The command deck fell silent as the implications sank in. For 12,000 cycles, the Empire had never acknowledged any species as equals. To do so now would shake the very foundations of Imperial doctrine. And if I refuse? Zextelos asked, though he already suspected the answer. Captain Chen stepped forward. Then humanity will be forced to demonstrate why that would be unwise. Not just here, today, but across your empire. She gestured, and one of the Imperial guards handed her a small device that had been confiscated during her detention. She activated it, projecting a hologram showing Imperial worlds, defense stations, and key strategic locations throughout Bexarian space. We have ships like the Pathfinder throughout your territory, Admiral. Some have been in place for years, gathering intelligence, mapping defenses, and preparing contingencies. Your empire never noticed because you weren't looking for them. The revelation hit Zextelos like a physical blow. If what she said was true, the empire was already compromised at its core. The High Command will never accept this, he stated, mandibles clicking in agitation. Even if I agreed to your terms, Emperor Zax Veller would order immediate retaliation. Admiral Takahashi nodded. We anticipated that response, which is why we've prepared a more compelling demonstration. He turned slightly, addressing someone off-screen. Execute Operation Looking Glass. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reports began flooding in from across the Imperial fleet. Admiral, Velcorax exclaimed, we're receiving transmissions from the Imperial homeworld. The palace defense grid has been compromised. Unknown vessels have appeared in orbit around our core worlds. Impossible. Zextelos roared, the word now a desperate denial rather than an expression of disbelief. The homeworld's defenses are impenetrable. Captain Chen raised an eyebrow. There's that word again. On the main display, the feed switched to show the Imperial homeworld. The magnificent orbital defenses, the pride of the Empire, were still intact. But floating serenely among them were dozens of human vessels, their design matching those currently surrounding the inevitable conquest. How? Zextelos couldn't even complete the question. The same way we surrounded your fleet, Admiral Takahashi explained. Phase shift technology. Our ships can briefly step outside normal space, bypassing physical barriers including your defensive screens. The technology was developed centuries ago, Captain Chen added, originally for mining operations in unstable planetary cores. We've simply found additional applications. Sub-Commander Velcorax approached the Grand Admiral, her voice low. Sir, we're receiving a direct transmission from the Imperial Palace. Emperor Zax Veller demands to speak with you immediately. Zextelos felt the weight of 12,000 years of Imperial history on his shoulders. Never had the Empire faced such a situation. Outmaneuvered, outgunned, and exposed as vulnerable before a species they had dismissed as primitive. "Admiral," Captain Chen said gently, "this doesn't have to end in conflict. Humanity doesn't seek conquest or subjugation. We've studied your empire's history. You've brought stability and advancement to many worlds. There's room in this galaxy for both our civilizations." The Grand Admiral looked at her, seeing the human in a new light. "You could destroy us, yet you offer peace." "War is expensive," she replied. "In lives, in resources, in time. We've had enough of it in our own history to know its cost." Admiral Takahashi nodded on the display. "The choice is yours, Admiral Zextalos. A new relationship between equals, or a demonstration of why equality is the only viable option." In 12,000 years, the Vexarian Empire had never negotiated with a newly discovered species. They had always simply taken, assimilated, and ruled. The idea of treating these humans, these deceptively advanced humans, as equals went against everything the imperial doctrine taught. And yet, as Zextalos looked at the tactical displays showing human vessels throughout imperial space, he recognized a fundamental truth. The Empire had never before encountered a species that could match them technologically. The doctrine had never been tested against true equals. "Open a channel to the Emperor," he commanded, his decision made. 3 standard months later, Captain Alexis Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly established Joint Diplomatic Station, orbiting neutral space between Imperial and human territories. Beside her, Grand Admiral Zextalos watched as vessels from both civilizations moved peacefully through the shipping lanes. "Your Emperor was surprisingly reasonable once the situation was explained," Chen remarked. Zextalos made the harmonic sound that humans had come to recognize as laughter. "Emperor Zax Veller has ruled for 7 centuries. One does not achieve such longevity without knowing when to adapt." "The Treaty of Mutual Recognition is holding well," Chen observed. "The first trade agreements are already being implemented." "Yes," the Admiral agreed. Though many in the imperial hierarchy still struggle with the concept of an equal relationship rather than assimilation. Chen smiled. "Change takes time. Humanity understands this better than most." "There is one question that still troubles me, Captain," Zextalos said, turning his 6 eyes toward her. "Why the deception? If your technology was so advanced, why present yourselves as primitive?" "2 reasons, Admiral. First, it was a test. We needed to understand how your empire would react to a seemingly vulnerable species. Your response told us everything we needed to know about imperial doctrine. And the second reason," Captain Chen's expression grew serious, "because there are things out there beyond either of our civilizations, Admiral. Ancient things that have noticed both of us. Humanity's deception wasn't just about testing the empire. It was practice for challenges to come." She turned to look out at the stars, her voice dropping almost to a whisper. "We've learned to hide our strengths for good reason. Some predators are attracted to power." Zextalos felt his crystalline structure tense at her words. "You speak of threats beyond known space. Let's just say humanity's paranoia has kept us alive this long," Chen replied. "And perhaps an alliance between our peoples might be beneficial for reasons beyond mere politics." As they stood together watching the stars, the Grand Admiral of the Vexarian Empire considered how completely his understanding of the galaxy had changed in just a few months. His civilization had ruled uncontested for 12,000 cycles, never imagining that a species could advance so dramatically while deliberately concealing their progress. Humans, it seemed, had evolved not just physically on their death world, but psychologically as well. They had developed the most dangerous adaptation of all, the ability to appear weak when they were strong. Wolves in sheep's armor, indeed.